All right, episode 19. So, this is again about the leadership thing, and this one is about adaptability. This is the fourth thing that I found was most important to my improvement as a leader to go from a terrible leader to a not so terrible. So, adaptability. The thing to know about adaptability is that change is certain. That's the first thing to acknowledge. Um, and so, if change is certain, then we must adapt. And it allows us that truth, when we understand it, to become a little bit more flexible, a little bit less rigid. Now, this is where experience really can shine, because history does have a habit of repeating. So if you have people around who have seen a certain situation, even if it's not exactly the same, I found that all disciplines are connected. So once you've seen something in some way, even maybe not on a literal way, but maybe on a principle-based way, you can copy and paste and overcome a certain obstacle in another place. So that's where, when a situation comes along, it has been my experience, one of the best ways to do it is gather the people who are the most senior, who have the most experience and the best reputation for success, and get their feedback to know how to adapt to this situation. As Tony Robbins once said, be fixed on the outcome, but adaptable in your approach. You know, if I said to you, we're at point A and we need to get to point B, don't get fixated on how we get there. That's not important. As long as we're making progress, as long as we're getting there, doesn't matter. As long as we arrive. Don't get caught up, we have to do it this way. It has to be done that way because that's the way it was done in the past. Don't worry about that. Just remember, fixed outcome, flexible in the approach. So moving on to the first thing. First, what is the vision? Remember the vision. That keeps you focused on what's important. Don't think about short-term wins. And I'm going to cover that in a second. Now, why remember the vision and why not think about short-term wins? Well, you want to make sure you're not being sidetracked. And if you know what the company is moving towards, the business is moving towards, or the team is moving towards, and that becomes your magnetic north, you know where to go. And then it's much easier for you to move around obstacles when you can see where you want to go. But if you're sort of stuck in the darkness and you don't know which direction to go, it's going to affect how you travel. You probably just pick the easiest way because you don't know where you're going. But if you know that's where we need to go and you need to climb over a rock or go around it or go under it, whatever, or build a bridge over it, you will, because you know that's where you're going to go. And you're not fixed on how to do it. It's just like, that's where we need to get to. Let's get to how. We'll figure that out on the way. Instead of getting caught up on small goals that don't really bring us any closer to the big objective. And another thing is that time and the competition is always moving forward. So I don't believe in everything must be improved constantly forever. It's very frustrating for me when I'm in a part of an organization and you've got something that's working well and the system is great, and then someone comes along and goes, yeah, but there must be some way we can make it better. And I've seen many occasions where someone comes in and introduces something without really doing an analysis of the impact of that new thing, and then it becoming a mess. You know, like the symbolism of, you got a manager and there's a problem with a wall, and so they put like a plank up against the wall to stop the wall falling down, and then that manager moves on, and then a new manager comes along and goes, we could make this better if we just remove that plank, and they remove the plank and the wall falls down. And then you just go like, why did you have to do that for? Now, of course, I'm not saying that you should just leave the plank up against the wall forever. No, there's a better way, but do a full analysis first of what the implications of what you want to do before you start doing it. It's that old ready, fire, aim business. We don't want to do that. Things should be improved, but only after full analysis. Now, I remember this, before I was talking about knowing what your outcome is, remember the vision and don't get caught up in short-term goals. Here's a true story. So Blockbuster Video back in the day, Now you think about it, you look at all the streaming services that are on now. None of them belong to the video companies that were the main video renters, right? Why isn't there a Blockbuster streaming service? Why isn't there like a Video Easy or whatever company is in your area? Why isn't there? And this is sad. They violated this rule. They forgot the vision and they got caught up on short-term goals. When the internet was coming along, it was actually proposed to Blockbuster, why don't we start doing digital downloads of videos? And do you know what their response was? If we do digital videos, we won't be able to charge people for late returns. Because at that time, they were receiving between 20 to 30% of their revenue from late returns. So they refused, they forgot about the big vision. The big vision was providing entertainment through the medium of video to its customers. That's its vision. And that should have been in the forefront. They forgot that and just focused on, but we can't lose late returns. Look what happened to the company. It's gone bankrupt. And that's what I'm talking about. Make sure you're keeping your eyes on what's important. So if at that meeting, if people had remembered it and someone said, oh, we don't want to lose late returns, they would have said, no, our vision here is providing entertainment for our customer. If we do this right, we would survive. And they didn't. There should be a Blockbuster streaming service. There isn't. Companies came out of nowhere to replace these giants of the industry. And that's what happens when we take our eyes on the most important vision. Now, how do we do this as a leader? While I learned this, how do you do anything? Do it constantly. You need to remind yourself of what the big vision is, and you need to remind your team. Maybe the vision is you want to be the best service provider in this. Maybe it is you want to invent the next this. Maybe it is that we want to reach this level of whatever excellence in your field. But just make sure that you and your team keep that at their forefront. What is it that your business does? And keep that at the front. Don't get sidetracked by late fee rubbish. Keep it. We are this. We are a video entertainment business. That's what we do. We're not a late fee business. We are an entertainment business. Don't get caught on the side. So another thing to do is accept a certain amount of loss when you are adapting. If you are going to adapt to a situation, because that's what didn't happen in the Blockbuster thing. They didn't adapt. They didn't say, well, look, let's grow in this situation. Let's start an online Blockbuster store. And someone can say, oh, but that'll be in competition. People won't go to our video stores, right? So right then and there, someone should have said, yes, we're going to lose sales on the videos that we rent, but we're going to make more sales on what we stream. Accept it. And if and so we need to, as leaders, we need to do that. We need to come prepared of knowing what the loss is when we adapt, because there will be a loss. And there's two reasons to do this. The first reason is it's just true. You should be preparing yourself for what the loss is. Whatever I do over here is going to sacrifice something from over here. And I have to be real about that. So that's the first thing, being real, knowing your space. And the second thing is when the naysayers put up their hand and go, oh, but, whatever, you've brought your receipts. So if you come to that meeting and you're not prepared and you go, let's start a streaming service, and they go, we're going to lose 30% of our income straight away, you're responsible, you're going to be the CEO to lose 30% of income, how do you feel about that? And we might go, oh, I don't want to be that CEO. Oh, you know what? We'll wait maybe until next year, we'll relook at this. Meanwhile, Netflix and everything is getting stronger. You've already lost your window, you're out of business. But if you're prepared for it and go, look, let's look at the numbers, right? Once we start streaming, we're going to lose sales. This is what's going to be, these are the projected losses. And at the beginning, it's going to be a setback. But over time, we will make far more than we lost. We'll do up a bit of a chart. We'll put some numbers. We'll crunch stuff. We'll get some experts to come in and talk. And so when you go to the meeting and the person very confidently goes, we're going to lose sales, you go, yes, we will. But here's what we're going to gain. And you're able to shut down these negative naysayers to adapting to a situation, because that's how it was done in the past and this is how we've always done. You could just crush that by just saying, look, it's a very valid point you're making, but if we don't make a change now, we're going to end up dying. This is the future. We need to adapt to it. Okay? Moving on to the next step. Keep the highest priority in front of your team's mind at all times. Why is this important? Because it frees up thinking. It gets people out of I'm doing this little thing. So I remember the story about the saying of, it's like straightening deck chairs on the Titanic. Like, what is the big picture here? The big picture is, we need to sail this boat, and then once we're in trouble, we need to get as many people off this boat and save as many people. I don't care about straightening deck chairs. Like, that may be your job on a day-to-day basis, but that's not important right now. So keep the main vision. Now, of course, at one time in that boat's voyage, it was like delivering world-class service and getting across the ocean. But at some point, the goal changed. And when the goal changed to saving as many people as possible, that needs to filter down so that everyone on every level understands. Now, of course, I know as the boat's going down, there's no one realistically, that's why it's a saying, straightening deck chairs on the Titanic. But I have seen, and I think many people have seen, you're a part of an organization and they have a main goal, but subdivisions get caught up in what they're doing, even if it doesn't serve the purpose of the main goal, or it doesn't serve it fully. Maybe part of it is good for it, but not completely. So it's very important that when you have a big vision of a team, that you go around to each subdivision and make sure they know, like the NASA saying, where when JFK came to NASA and he was talking to the guy, I talked about this in a previous video, he was a janitor, and he said, what do you do? He said, I put people on the moon. He realized that his job was making other people's job easier to do that job, so therefore he's part of that chain. And the chain's all connected. You lose part of it, the whole thing goes. So he knows he's part of that chain that goes from like a mine site somewhere gathering resources all the way through the manufacturing, all the way through the development, all through the janitorial, all the way through like caretaking and hospitality, all the way up engineering, astronauts. It's part of a one big chain and everyone's involved. And all of them understood, this is what we're doing together. So therefore, no one got caught up with, but I need to do it this way, because they all knew what the big goal was. Of course, you got small sub-goals to achieve that, but you never sacrifice the big goal to achieve the smaller ones. Everyone knows this is the main thing we're all building towards, which is also a great team-building exercise. And also, it frees up thinking. Instead of being caught up on minor things, you've always got that bigger picture. So how do you do this? I found the best way to do it was regular reminders and communications. Come to pre-starts, have a weekly or fortnightly meeting, and remind everyone of what it is we're here and why it's important. That's another big part. Don't just tell them what they're doing, tell them why it's important, because if the thing they're doing is important, that means I'm important too. And people like to feel important. It's important, and it is, they are important, because you don't have them, you don't achieve the thing. So you're being honest. And another thing is, I found it was always a good idea to reward people who are embodying putting the psychology of putting the main objective forward. It was always a good idea. So, because people will, if they see someone getting rewarded for something, they're more likely to do it. So if you see someone in your organization who is, being proactive, being entrepreneurial, taking initiative, and they're actually putting the main goal first and embodying it, pull them out in public, recognize them, reward them, praise them, allow people to see this is the kind of behavior we want to see more of, and that has to be proactive. We have to look for opportunities to encourage people. And the final thing I'll say is, accept the very real probability that you're going to have to lose to gain. Why is this important? First of all, it's realistic. There is no such thing in this universe of getting something for nothing. And also, it stops the naysayers. If you do your research well, and you understand, you go around, you talk to the people who are most experienced, who have the best reputations for success, and who have the most knowledge in a situation, get all their feedback, formulate a plan, identify where you can gain and where you will lose. You will lose. Then when you come to the meeting and you put forward the idea of, this is, in order to be adaptable, we need to adapt it this way. And if you've already thought it through fully and done your full analysis, when someone puts their hand up like the blockbuster and go, but we'll lose 30%, you can say, right, I'm glad you brought that up. Because if we don't, we go bankrupt, which is 100% loss. It allows you to shut down the naysays, because there are some people who just want it. They may not be happy that someone else coming up with an idea. It allows you to address that person who just wants to tear it down and say, yes, thought of it. Oh, you too? Right, yeah, thought of that one too. And here's a few you may not have thought about, and you actually talk about all the things that you're going to have to sacrifice. And then The other reason it's important is when it happens, you can point back to the meeting and say, yes, we know, we talked about this and we prepared for it. Because when you make the change and you move, say, for example, Blockbuster, move onto streaming and away from video, you're gonna take a hit financially. But by addressing it proactively in those meetings, you've already protected. When they say, oh, we just lost 30%, you said, yep, and we factored it in exactly like we said it was. We're still moving forward on it. So that means everything is going according to plan, and we keep on going through this. Another thing is look for opportunities. Explore pros and cons of any situation, because there's always a better way to do things. So once you get your first solution, don't just stop there. Think, okay, great, that's a good start, but how can we make it better? Again, rely on your senior members here. No one expects the leader to have all the answers. No one should. We rely on our teams, and that's another thing for our team members to know is leaders are not gods. They are fallible. They make mistakes. You know, be forgiving in their position. It's a tough thing to bear all that responsibility. And also, if someone's coming to you with ideas, encourage them. Even if the idea is maybe not the best one and you're not going to go down it, encourage them. Like, you want to hear more ideas. The more ideas you have, the more options you have, right? So if someone comes to you with an idea, even if it's bad, don't say that's a bad idea. Never say that. Just say, like, I love your creativity. That could work somewhere perfectly else. Maybe not here. Think about it more. And again, as a leader, don't allow that monkey to jump on your back as well. Like, every time someone comes to you with a problem or even with a solution, don't you take it on board. There's too many monkeys. Allow that problem to stay with them, allow them to work on it. So don't someone come to you with a solution, I learned to do this, because I would take it on and I'm taking on too much and then I'm failing at everything. If I learned to do this, when someone comes to me with a possible solution, say, well, this is my idea and I don't think it's going to work, I'd say, that's a really good start and that could definitely work somewhere else. How about this? Maybe give them some more information to work with and say, right, that's what I really need. Think about it further. I love where this is going. Let's schedule a meeting next week. We're going to sit down, see with it. Leave the problem with them of coming up with a solution to their problem. And do that with everyone. You've got your own problems to deal with. And if they're going to come with you, don't be like, oh, that's a good idea. Here, let me take that and let me try. No, you've just taken on another problem, which is going to diminish your capability of dealing with all leadership. Allow them to take care of that. If they want to take responsibility and they want to take credit for it, great. But let it stay with them. Let them develop it. Maybe even suggest to them, look, take this back to your team and get their input on what you think. And then, make a little smaller universe of what you're doing. Because if you're relying on your leaders to come up with ideas for you to work with, will allow them to come up with ideas with their team to work with. You want to set the example of how to behave. Where were we? Yeah, and then encourage, like I said, finally, all I'll say is encourage people, give them as much recognition as they deserve, not more, don't go overboard. People can tell if it's being fake, but give them as much as they deserve. And then it also allows, if you're someone who has an idea and you're scared to speak up, but you see someone come up with an idea, especially if it's your idea, and they say something, and the leader goes, great idea, you're like, I had that idea, and then it prompts, oh, I could have been a person, and then they're more likely to come to you with an idea in the future. Anyway, this is a shorter one this time, that's all I got. So again, that's all I have to say. I said it, and go get it.